Again,
Good evening and welcome to the Maple Plain City Council meeting. It is Monday, June 28th, and it is 7:01, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am looking for a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Cahill,
I'll second.
second by DeLong. Any further discussion? All in favor of adopting the agenda as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item of business is our consent agenda, which includes minutes of the May 24 City Council workshop, minutes of the May 24 City Council business meeting, and firefighter hire of Hayden Mose. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that.
Motion by Fay,
Second.
second by Cahill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved 5-0. Our next item of business is accounts payable, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to staff. Or I guess if there's any questions. Or sorry.
Would you like to know?
Oh, you want to read us? No, I'm kidding. You don't have to read it to us.
Question.
Okay. Does your question regard the check? Fire department batch or the city batch?
City batch page 15.
Okay.
It shows page 6 at the top right of the document. That second thing there that says FD truck RECP COB, is that supposed to be under the fire department budget or is that us? E451-43 cash payment capital outlay.
You talking about Milo? Milo Electric?
No, it's a cash payment. Actually, it's the top one I get. The top one is 1305. And then the second one down is 388.61. And it just shows a
I
cash.
believe that description,
That,
replace three,
FD truck.
it's not fire department.
Yeah.
It's,
It should be park.
it's the Veterans Memorial Park.
Yeah.
Outlets were not, working correctly before partying in the park, and so we had to have them come over and change the.
Oh,
the cover
food
on
truck.
them. Food truck, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Which, and we did bring up that those still are not working out correctly.
Yes, and I
Okay.
contacted them, and that might be a discussion for another day, trying to get that figured out.
Okay, sounds good. Great. Any other questions regarding the city check batch?
I do.
Okay, Councilmember Fay.
would be our page 13 packet, Interstate Power Systems. What's that?
What's the, on the top of the page?
Oh, page 4 of the page, your page 4 of the accounts payable, page 13 of the packet.
Yes.
We spent $900 last month for a biannual inspection and a replacement part on the water treatment plant generator, only to find out a few weeks later, the water treatment plant generator does not turn on when the electricity goes off. This runs every Thursday for a couple of hours, and now we have a $220 bill for a check to find out what. Do we know why we paid $900 last month and we're paying $200 again this month?
So I'll have to verify I have a much better memory. Are you sure that the replacement part wasn't for the lift station
No.
generator?
It was a heater element. Because because there was two costs. One was for the lift station, one was for the water treatment plant generator. The $900 was for the water treatment plant generator, and it was Interstate's biannual inspection, and then they must have found a heating element or something that must keep it from freezing up in the winter or something like that, that needed to be replaced. But the bottom line is the inspection and the part were $900, and then when it hit the fan, it didn't work.
Right.
So who failed on that one?
Right, two completely different components, so I mean, you're looking at for some reason, did it not fire up, or when the power went out, did it not signal it to start? So there could have been something in that mechanism. But it wouldn't have had anything to do with the service they did on the heater.
I understand that. I only bring this up here because we don't have staff to talk about, because he did mention it in the monthly report, but there'd be no one to speak to it from Public Works. So I only bring it up here because of the cost associated with it. Right?
So Calista, are you able to bring that up at staff meeting then and give council an answer?
And I
or
think,
follow up and give council an answer?
Even emailing Interstate, Howard getting a more descriptive.
However you get
clear
the answer, I'm
explanation.
not gonna tell you. how,
Well,
but
to
You can let us know.
your point though, John, I mean, but they're running that thing once a month, but are they
No,
just?
they're running it once a week.
Right, so are they just turning it on, or are they testing it based on some sort of a power outage to see if it, how do they test it?
I believe it's an automated process
Okay,
where it's scheduled to run.
But it
We just
passed
know it's
the
very
inspection.
important, so it needs to work.
yeah.
It does.
And right, and you can imagine my very,
Yeah, we don't want to get to that.
yeah.
Any other questions regarding the city check batch? Okay, with that, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the city check batch.
I'll make that.
Made by DeLon,
I'll second.
second by Fay. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the city check batch as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. All right, motion passes 5-0. Next item that we are looking for a motion for is to approve the partnership check batch. Ready to make that motion?
I'm sure, so moved.
Motion by DeLon to approve the fire partnership check batch.
Second.
Second by Cahill. Any further discussion related to the fire partnership check batch? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the fire partnership check batch, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item of business is number 8, which is our staff reports, which have all been submitted in writing this month from our city planner, from West Hennepin Public Safety, from our city engineer, from Public Works, People Department, and Administration and Finance. Looking for a motion to receive those reports.
So moved. DeLuca?
Moved by Luca,
I'll second.
second by DeLon. Any further discussion or questions?
I have just one real quickly.
Councilmember DeLon.
Clarissa, could you follow up with Dylan's report on May 6th that states all battery backups at WTP need to be replaced? I just want to make sure if that's like a major expense that we need to have on the radar. Sorry, that's all I had.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor of receiving the staff reports as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item of business is number 9, which is old business massage.
Thank you, Mayor. This is coming back from last month after council had a couple of questions about the layout and how this additional license might affect the parking and the utilization of the Haven Homes facility. So in following up with Haven Homes management, I kind of outlined some of their responses. So she did include the map of the facility, which shows that the salon is on the third floor. She noted that they will mostly be looking to offer massage services to employees. I think that the salon's location itself on the third floor doesn't make it terribly conducive to serving the public. But that salon is still licensed to serve the public if they so chose. There is only a single room available for massage therapy within their layout, so they really can only be serving one person at a time. Their current massage therapist will only be working 1 day per month. And obviously might expand that as demand changes. So, and I did run this by Mark Cultus, and neither of us had significant concerns about the utilization for the expansion of the massage license, really causing a more commercialized use of the Haven facility and massage in particular.
By then, if they were to add another massage room or a massage therapist, would that come before council? Because of,
Adding the massage room, not necessarily, other than, it's a 1-year license.
Oh.
So, I mean, you're licensing them on an annual basis. So, I mean, yes, in theory, but not necessarily at that time. So, in looking at floor plans. But who knows?
right, but if there's
Hard to tell
empty
from the floor.
apartments up there and all of a sudden they decide to turn it into another massage room, and all you need is an empty room.
Right.
They come and do them at your work now, so.
Yeah.
That would be my concern. It's just all of a sudden.
And there is kind of a question of, I mean, we can put limits on it if we wanted, or we can state, from an enforcement standpoint, we can say, this is the floor plan that you submitted, this is the massage room, this is what your license is based on. So if you look at it through that lens, I mean, it's kind of like your.
Conditions,
Yeah.
so that to avoid creep.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what we approved in June of 2021, and by June of 2022, it's down on the first floor.
Well, and they have another salon on the other side on first floor, so that's why I just feel like we need to be very careful.
Yeah, I mean, we can
Because
definitely
there's
put
multiple
the,
salons in the building.
yeah, we can definitely put the condition in there for that it's used in the main, the massage room as described on the third floor.
I just don't see it being an issue, and that this is not their business model. I mean, I don't see all of a sudden there's 10 cars out there fighting for parking to get their massage,
No one ever thought that either at the Ball of Twine or the Yellow Candy Store, so never know. They're just, because parking's already so limited there, that's my big concern. There's times there now that the lot is full.
Well, if we renew it annually, maybe we give it a go for the year and see if it's a problem.
Your shirts and annual.
Actually, it's not even.
The salon, we don't approve that annually, do we?
The salon, we don't license the salon.
Okay, I didn't think
So
so.
we only do, your massage license goes through December 30th, so actually you've got 6 months.
No, we don't license it.
You're looking for a motion to approve the massage therapy enterprise based on some condition?
I personally don't think the condition is necessary, but we can certainly add it if you would like.
I think it's going to be an issue.
So looking, are you?
I'll make a motion to approve the massage establishment license as written.
Okay, so there's a motion by Councilmember Fay to approve the massage therapy enterprise license for Haven Home Salon, June 28th, 21 through December 31st, 2021, as submitted.
I'll second.
Second by DeLon. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
I keep trying to raise my hand, I can't.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's-
Help me.
habits.
The next item of business Right, under new business is Spikes and, how would you pronounce that one, Carissa?
Spikes and tools.
Spikes and Pools. Okay, they have more names down there. I can't keep them all straight. Sign permit application, and I'm gonna turn that over to Mark.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council. Good to see everybody tonight, even though virtually. This item is coming before you after being considered at the Planning Commission meeting at their last meeting that was held in June. And it's a request by Scenic Sign Corporation and Spike Feed for approval of an updated sign package for the existing building located at 5135 Oak Street. The applicant approached the city about the possibility of changing out some of the signage that was on the building and keeping some of the signage on the building earlier this year. At that time, staff pulled out and did some research on what had been approved previously relating to the sign, noting that a couple of the signs that were on the property were what we would have considered to be legal non-conforming, as they're not permitted in the mixed use downtown zoning district. And what we found was that the entirety of the signage on that property was approved by the city via resolution in 2011 as a full sign package for the property. And so with that, we noted that any change in signage on the property would need to go through a full process involving Planning Commission review and recommendation, and City Council review and consideration to amend that sign package if some of the signage that was being, some of the signage would be changed out by the applicant. So in any case, the applicant made application to come through a sign package amendment review. The city has a process in place for an overall sign package. In this particular case, the applicant seeking permission from the city to allow certain signage to remain on the premise and then allow certain signage to be replaced. I noted the condition of approval in the 2011 resolution in the packet, saying that any change in signage would require the review and approval of the City Council. And then I go forward in my packet and my report to just compare and contrast what was initially approved with the 2011 sign package, a total of 362 square feet. I break it down by elevation, so north elevation, west elevation, and east elevation. And then I also compared that with what is being proposed by the applicant today, again, breaking it down by north, east, and west elevations. So the proposed sign package that the applicant would have in place has a total of 340 square feet total in the proposed condition versus 362 square feet in the existing condition. There's a couple of key points that relate to the existing signage that I wanted to note in the report. With wall-mounted signage in the mixed-use downtown zoning district, city allows 15% of the total wall area that the sign occupies to be comprised of signage. So we take the total square footage or face footage of the wall, and we determine a total area, and then we take 15% of that. What I did, because of the way that the signage is on three sides of the building, I took the three sides times their lineal foot times their square footage. I came up with a total allowable square footage, and it's just over 600 square feet, or it's above 600 square feet. And you can see the applicants are proposing a total of about 340 square feet. So they meet the total allowable sign area by that 15% provision. Within that, though, we also have a couple other conditions in our mixed use downtown sign ordinance, which requires no internal lighting to be permitted. And so with that no internal illumination, the any internally illuminated signage would not be permitted if it was coming in new. In this particular case, the applicant has a couple of internally illuminated signs. They have the existing pylon sign that's located out front of the building on Oak Street, which has an internally illuminated panel. And they also have an internally illuminated channel lit sign that's located on the east facing wall of the building, which is the Ace Hardware sign. The applicant is seeking permission by the city to replace the panels that are on the pylon sign and then to leave in place without modifying the internally illuminated channel Ace Hardware sign on the east side of the building. The Planning Commission reviewed and discussed this at their meeting. They did open it up for comment, if anybody had any comment. And it was noted at the time by the Planning Commission that they had several concerns relating to the package that was being proposed. We discussed just in general the type of fonts that were being used. Why are there different fonts relating to different signage? The applicant did note that there are different brands that are included in their overall sign package for this building. The Ace Hardware brand, the Spike and Howells brand, and then some of the individual feed and signage relating to the goods and materials sold all have different brands. And so they said that they felt that it was necessary to have distinction between those brands and the fonts. Planning Commission also did discuss then and ask questions relating to the Ace Hardware signage and why the Ace Hardware signage was going to remain or being proposed to remain on the building. It was noted by the applicant that they have an agreement with Ace Hardware to be able to sell and market goods sold by Ace or under that Ace brand. And as a part of that agreement, they have to maintain Ace signage on their building. You see this also very similar with a lot of kind of private branded hardware stores that sell or have products from True Value. So both the True Value and the Ace have similar types of agreements with stores. In this particular case, the applicant is proposing to maintain an Ace, ACE sign on the front of the building. They're proposing to relocate it from where it's currently located on the front of the building. And that again is the north facing elevation. And then they want to maintain in place the Ace Hardware sign that's located on the east elevation. Planning commissioners did discuss that it's somewhat confusing to people who have known the store and have think about going to the store for hardware type products, and that those products would no longer be offered or are no longer offered in the store. And with that, ultimately, Planning Commission discussed the need for two Ace Hardware signs, or one Ace sign, one Ace Hardware sign on the building. They noted that the internally illuminated Ace Hardware sign on the east facing wall doesn't meet the ordinance. This is a change that's being requested. And they recommended that the city council consider approval of the overall sign package with the removal of the Ace Hardware sign on the east facing wall, but allowing the pylon sign that's out in front of the building to replace its existing panel that's out there to be the Spike and Howells panel versus the UCF panel. It was noted those are very, very similar panels. If you look at them graphically, and lettering wise, they're almost identical. So with that, commissioners made that recommendation. The recommendation that was made, or that then is presented to the city council in the resolution, is of course the planning commission recommendation, and that is approval of the package with the removal of the Ace Hardware sign. Since that planning commission meeting, the applicants did reach out to me. And we had discussion relating to the planning commission's recommendation. They noted and then followed up with a letter to city council that ownership of the Spike and Howells, which is kind of Gerton's brand, is not interested in removal of the Ace Hardware sign on the east facing wall. They think that's going to cost quite a bit of money to remove that sign, repair the wall, fix the wall. And so they would like consideration to allow that sign on the east facing wall to remain, noting the rest of the package was recommended for approval by the planning commission. And I believe the council has that most recent correspondence that came in last week. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions relating to the sign permit package or any of the details that were provided in the staff report.
Anyone have questions for staff?
I guess just a comment about the Ace Hardware. You know, we are trying to move towards removing those channel lights. You know, we've been talking about as sign packages come up, they're removing those. I don't necessarily feel we need to force a business to remove the sign, but perhaps we say they're not allowed to illuminate that light. That'll kind of address the planning commissions about confusion of two different signs, and it'll reduce that internally lit and apply to the guidelines.
Say that because I sat through the planning commission meeting. Group of people that take their job seriously, you know that.
Oh, yes.
And Mark, you had mentioned de-emphasizing the ACE sign because there was quite a bit of emphasis placed on the ACE hardware sign. And I thought about the same thing. Why didn't someone mention, well, it's a sign, let's just no longer illuminate it. Now we cover all the bases. They don't have to remove it. It's still there. It's still part of the package. It's just that you take the light out of it and it's no longer an internally illuminated sign. You know, if it stays illuminated, you know, it stays. And it can be illuminated. They'll come back again in the future and maybe make a recommendation that, well, you approved it in 2011, you approved it in 2021. And now here it is 2023, and we want to put a different sign up there because we're no longer an ACE distributor, we're a True Value distributor. We're right back where we were as far as internally illuminated signs. I agreed with you, and I'm not quite sure why that recommendation didn't get made, and I'm not quite sure if the representatives from the sign company and Spikes, if they would have been open as an option. Mark, did you mention that to them at all?
Yes, thank you, council members. We did have a discussion. I mean, I had a pretty, just kind of transparent discussion with them that we want to de-emphasize that sign, and we also want to eliminate internally illuminated signage in the downtown district. To the extent that signs are changing over, we'd like to see those comply. So we had that discussion. Their desire was to ask council to consider leaving it as is. But I think that's certainly appropriate that council could make a recommendation to allow the sign to remain without internal illumination.
Mark, my question is, if we're trying to get rid of the internal lit signs, why is the pylon sign remaining internally lit?
So the pylon sign was there from, it actually predates the last sign approval is my understanding. So that sign was there. There's some question on that sign, to be honest, as to whether or not as a legal non-conforming sign, we allow the replacement of that panel without any kind of further permitting. There's probably some question or gray area in that the city is being asked to consider an overall package and might have the ability to recommend not allowing that sign to remain. But in talking with the city's legal counsel, there's probably enough gray area relating to that sign in particular being legal non-conforming, and that as a legal non-conforming sign, we would allow the panel to be replaced, not any expansion or enlargement, but we'd allow the panel to be replaced.
But Mark, this is the second or third one of these signs. We had it on Quinlivan's building too, where we just say replace. When do we ever get to the point as a city where we're going to be able to change those if we don't take these opportunities? We have a sign package that they're coming in for right now. They're asking us to approve that. I'm not willing to approve an internally lit sign when we have a choice right this moment to say, redesign it in a way that meets our codes and our intent and our city guidelines.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that. I do. I think you could make the recommendation. Whether you'd be challenged on the panel sign, I don't know. This is a little different than Quinlivan. John, we granted variances for them to replace signs, not just modify signs. We let them fully take down a sign and then put up a new sign. This is just a panel replacement, which is something we did allow on the,
This is a new company coming into a building using an existing sign and wanting to slap their logo and their panel on the front of it. I'm not willing to do that. And I don't think it's a recommendation that we give them. City council will tell them what they can put for a sign.
I
I
think
think,
panel signs, though, we were advised that if they came forward just with the panel, that we had no choice but to grandfather them in if they're just replacing the panel. And so I think it's unfair to say because they're doing a sign package to replace the entire thing. I think it's the same sign, they're just replacing, it's it's even the same picture, I think. They're just replacing the name, so I'm fine with the pylon sign.
Do you know, Mark, the legal side of that? That comes by.
no, I think you'd have to ask legal counsel specifically. I had a discussion on it. I think there's some gray area around the legal nonconformity of an existing sign. Under our current ordinance and under the legal nonconforming statute, which is something we're bound by, if you come in and have a legal nonconforming sign and you do not expand that sign, you do not reconstruct it, there are provisions that allow you to replace the panel. Now that's under just a sign permit.
This
If they
is a
came
new
in.
business coming in using an existing sign. Mark, your logic falls apart from a legal perspective there, that I can come in if I'm the business owner and change my panel to something. Now I sell it to Fay, and Fay comes in and puts his new business on. He doesn't get the same right that I do. I'll take that. That's a risk I'm willing to take. That's just not right. We're never going to get as a city, folks, to our sign ordinance if we don't start making changes.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I have no issues at all with the signs. I know we have a sign ordinance. I don't have a problem with the signs as they sit currently. But I wasn't part of the planning process of saying what could and couldn't be there. I hate barriers to new businesses coming into our town as well.
And while I appreciate what you're saying, Councilmember DeLong, my concern is consistency, because this has been my 7th year as an elected official, and we had this similar conversation with the Minnesota Beef Council, and we're gonna have a similar conversation with the old MPFC sign. So my concern is consistency. So whatever that looks like, I want to do for one business what we do for another. Obviously, keeping in mind that we want to welcome and retain businesses is, the goal.
Weigh in,
Yes.
just to kind of contemplating Mark's point about the provisions that allow for replacement of the panel and do not expand. And so if we're not going to allow that, legal counsel to weigh in on that, because it makes sense to me that replacement of the panel would not be expanding that particular use. And I think that it would have at least to.
Yeah, and I think that would be, I would concur with that. Our ordinance, just because we just are looking at the ordinance when we're looking at that provision, 150.29 non-conforming signs, subdivision B, our current language says permanent on-premise signs, non-conforming permanent signs, which are accessory to the premise on which they are erected and which were lawfully existing at the time of adoption of this subchapter shall be allowed to continue in use, but shall not be rebuilt, altered, other than to change the message or relocated without being brought into compliance with the requirements of the subchapter. So that's what we're basing that provision on is that language in the city's ordinance.
Well, I would move that we approve the sign package with the change to that instead of removing the eternally illuminated Ace Hardware sign, we just require that they not illuminate it.
So there's a motion on the table by Councilmember Cahill to approve the resolution approving the sign package for Spikes and Howell's sign permit application with a change to 2A instead of removing that it would be not illuminate.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember DeLon. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving this motion, please signify by, oh wait, we have to do a resolution. Sorry, count myself. It's a resolution vote, so it will be done by roll call.
DeLon,
Aye.
Moskowski,
Aye.
Fay,
Aye.
Cahill.
Aye.
DeLuca.
No,
The motion passes 4-1. Thank you, everyone, for your work on that. Next item of business is seal coating quotes, and I will turn that over to our engineer.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. You have in your packet tonight, this is something that's been hanging out there for a while, but we did go and solicit quotes for seal coating this year. You can see in your packet that the seal coating, not a very large area. We have Bud Avenue this year, and then the parks in Rainbow Park, or the trails in Rainbow Park that will be fog sealed. We solicited quotes from several contractors. We received two back. As you can see, Allied Blacktop provided the low quote for $18,341.30. We've worked with Allied before, and assuming the council wishes to move forward with the project, we'd recommend awarding them the work. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from staff?
I'll go.
Okay,
Dave.
Councilmember DeLon.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Oh, you know, usually when I look at bids, I look at the really low ball one and then the high one, and I throw those out and I go in the middle. If they're totally out of whack, we only have two here to go by. I mean, what is your take on why the such a difference in the two bids?
Yeah, the seal coating from what we've seen in the past is that in this area, we see very competitive bids between Allied and Pearson. It seems like they just kind of go back and forth as to who's getting the work. Why the difference on this one, I couldn't exactly tell you if it's a matter of them being in the area to do other work, and so this was an easy add, or the opposite of that would be is that they had been unsuccessful on a few projects and wanted to make sure they got this one. What I can tell you is that we're not concerned about Allied's ability to be able to do this work, and we have no concerns with their bid price. If we have no reason to believe that they're not going to stand by that, and no reason to believe that they're not a good contractor to get it done for us. So in this case, I would say that we would just be thankful for the nice quotes and get the work done.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. So this is not design and build. You've specified gallons of X and cubic yards of Y and so on and so forth, and that is what they're basing their bids on?
Correct. I'm looking at kind of the items here, but mobilization, traffic control, sweeping the streets, coming out for a second sweeping, the materials for the seal coating. There's some striping on this, a crosswalk. So yes, all that was specified to them, and they gave us unit prices for all that work.
And then one other question, we approved roughly $6,000 per night of crack filling from a separate company. Is there do Allied or Pearson not do crack filling as well?
And now I got to remember which one. One of them does crack filling. The other one has a partner that they work with. So in the past, we have done crack filling as part of the seal coating. In this case, I believe that the crack filling project was the streets we were taking care of were bigger than the seal coating. So it made sense for People Services was already in the works of getting crack filling quotes. One thing we made sure was that the the cracks on the projects where the seal coat got included in that project. And the other thing we did do was the company that did the crack filling for you, we did ask them for a quote, but we didn't get one for the seal coating. So
Okay.
I think you're right. Going forward, depending on the project areas and where we're working, when we can combine that, it makes some sense, but they don't necessarily have to be done together. We would prefer that the crack filling get done before the seal coating if we had to choose.
We're not gonna have an issue where one or the other is gonna fail, and we're gonna have two different companies pointing fingers at one another.
No, I don't believe so. If one or the other fails, I believe it's going to be pretty clear as to who we need to work with to get that corrected.
We have about 2 or 3 months ago, we talked about looking at the seal coating that was being done and the projects and looked ahead to next year to see if some of those would be moved up to this year. Obviously, with the seal coating, did you not find some of the 2022s that you wanted to move up into 2021? I was surprised we didn't see a bigger seal coating. group.
Right. So we actually had looked at that, and the projects that would have been moved up or included in this were Independence and Howard. And the reason we didn't do that, or we thought that it would be beneficial to wait on those, is with the construction that's going to be happening in that area this summer. We were concerned that our new seal coat would take more traffic than it would normally get once that construction's done. So we thought it made more sense to wait to get those streets done till the adjacent construction was finished.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And then one other thing I will say about seal coating that's a little different than maybe what you had seen in the past is, if you can recall, we've gone through and tried to update the CIP, and the updated CIP includes a lot more mill and overlays than the past one that was probably heavier on the seal coating, less on the mill and overlays. That's kind of been flip-flopped. So some of those streets that probably showed up before for seal coating we're anticipating now that those will be mill and overlay here in the coming years. So it doesn't make sense to seal coat them at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions? I am looking for a motion to award the 2021 seal coating project to Allied Blacktop for $18,341.30.
So moved by DeLuca.
Moved by DeLuca,
Second.
second by Cahill. Any further discussion? All in favor of awarding the 2021 seal coating project to Allied, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for your work on that, Dave.
Thank you.
And it looks like we're just gonna keep on rolling with you. Our next item of business this evening is pay request for Veterans Memorial Park.
Yes, thank you. So this item, actually, this pay request has been hanging out there for a long time, as you can probably all recall. The last pay request we did for the park was last summer sometime. It might even been July, or maybe it was early August. And at that time, if you'll recall, there were some questions and some issues with getting the quantities squared away, particularly with some of the restoration dirt items. And so that really has been kind of holding up this next pay request for quite a while. We've been working with the contractor, asking for some documentation on a few things that we weren't getting. And so it's been in their court for a long time. We finally got to a point where we have the quantities squared away, have verified them, feel comfortable with them, to where we're getting this pay request in front of you. The pay request that you see, and if you look at the details of it, this represents the final quantities for the project. With that said, this is not the final pay request. We are still proposing that we maintain our 5% retainage, hopefully for just one more month, to make sure that all the punch list items are taken care of to the city's satisfaction. We have a couple things on our list that we need to verify and take care of yet before we're going to recommend final. There's some trees that were distressed that we want to make sure that that's resolved. Restoration, I think it has been a concern all the way along. We want one more chance to take a look at that, and then really give you one more chance to tell us if there's any items in the park that you're concerned about, or believe are their contractor's responsibility to take care of before we final things up. Mr. Fay, I think you had sent us a note about that light pole that doesn't have the glass panels in it still. So we're recommending pay request number 3 be paid in the amount of $57,115.43. And then would hope to come back to you next month with a final pay request, and request that if there are any items that you believe you want to make sure are on our punch list, please pass those on to me. If you want to have a meeting or a get together and walk through the park with us, we could do that. I guess I'd be looking for a little direction how you want to kind of make sure that this has been done to your satisfaction. But for tonight, we believe that pay request number 3 is squared away and ready to be approved. With that, and then I have one other item. I guess we could either take them together or separately, but as I detailed in my letter to the council, throughout the project here, there were some changes, some things that we were working with from a standpoint of kind of making some adjustments in the field. We had some storm sewer adjustments that need to be made, locating some of the utilities that were out there were challenging. We had some grading adjustment, the sign changes, so on and so forth, where we spent some additional inspection time and some project management time on the project from what we had originally estimated. In addition to that, there was some time for grant administration, specifically for some wage compliance that required some staff time that we hadn't originally accounted for. So tonight we're asking for requesting some additional engineering fees be paid in the total of $8,809, and would be happy to answer questions or have discussion about that as well.
Thank you, David. I think we're gonna go back to the first motion, and then we'll come back to the second. And we'll do these one at a time, and we can allow discussion if needed. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve pay request for JL Tice Incorporated in the amount of $57,115.43.
Can we have discussion first?
We can, or we can do motion in a second. Discuss. Moved by Cahill,
Second by DeLuca.
second by DeLuca. And discussion.
Hi, Dave. 2 quick questions. With this punch list that you have, is 5% retainage sufficient to cover the punch list?
Yes.
Okay, and then number 2 would be, what's the maximum? Is it 60 days that we can retain funds legally before they have to be released, or is it 30?
That's a good question. You know, the project has been kind of in a substantial completion state really since last fall. I'd have to check, Mr. Fay, if it's 30 or 60 days. In this case, right now, I'm not concerned about that as far as being able to, if we've got legitimate punch list items that need to be taken care of, I would say there's no reason we're not going to get that taken care of in the next month. And oh.
Okay, hearing none, then all in favor of approving pay request for JL Tice, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 5-0. The next item of business is to approve a payment for the additional engineering services in the amount of $8,809 to Bolton Bank. Would you like to discuss that?
No, I don't have a problem with it. I'm sure they're
Would you like to make the motion?
confident. Then I will make the motion to approve the $8,809 in additional
Expenses.
fees for Bolton and May.
I'll second to avoid any bowling.
Sorry.
Bowling.
So there's a motion by Councilmember Fay and a second by Councilmember DeLong to approve the payment for additional engineering services in the amount of $8,809, and I'm twisting no one's arms, to Bolton Mink. Any further discussion? Oh, we already said that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Whew, the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate it.
All Great. Thanks for being with us this evening as well. Next item of
Pleasure.
business, Fire Relief Association bylaw amendment, and I'm going to turn that over to Clarissa.
Thank you, Mayor. This request was submitted by the Relief Association. It's my understanding we've been discussing this for a few months, and it has gone through their process on their end, review by the membership, the twice. And then it's coming to council because it does have to do, or the two changes do have to do with benefits. So money that's being paid out. So that is required, recommended to be approved by city council. And the Relief Association president, McCoy, is on the meeting if you guys have any questions directly for him.
Any questions for President Foy or for staff? Okay, hearing none, then I am looking for a motion to approve the resolution approving the amendment to the Maple Plain Fire Relief Association bylaws regarding supplemental survivor and disability benefits.
So moved by DeLuca.
Moved by DeLuca, second by Cahill, and this is a roll call vote. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you. Cahill?
Aye.
Fay?
Aye.
Maskowski?
Aye.
DeLong?
Aye.
DeLuca?
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you so much for President McCoy for being with us tonight as well. Next item of business is the 2022 budget for the Pioneer Sarah Creek Watershed Commission. I will turn this again over to Clarissa.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was submitted by staff of the Watershed Commission, and I believe it's just part of their process to submit to their representative cities for review and to take any comments. I believe it has been approved by their board. Is that accurate? Yes, so it has been approved by their board, but they do take comments from the city. So anybody have any questions or comments for them, we will just put it in a letter.
And Councilmember Cahill, your representative.
Councilmember Fay.
I
actually
sat
had the
in on
chance
that
to
one.
sit.
Okay.
So I was out sick. So.
And I would just tell you that I wasn't involved with the entire budgeting process, but just the very end of it. And the members of that committee have been and continue to be exceptional stewards of the 5 or 6 member cities' money. And as you can see, they've held steady on their budget, and the watershed does tremendous work.
It's amazing the grants that they pull.
Yeah.
I mean, they're.
Do they have full-time staff just writing the grants?
Well, yes and no, but you have to understand that Bowser is a completely separate entity to the state of Minnesota, and then the Legacy Act, which is a taxation entity that money goes into, and the legacy funds just are continually going out to watersheds across the state to fund some pretty extensive projects. So the most recent one that was completed was a little over $500,000. And I want to say that when all is said and done, commission and the member cities probably paid $30,000 of
That's amazing.
the $520,000. And then they came in ahead of budget, so they were able to, instead of giving the money back, they were able to rewrite it and expend it in other avenues for invasive species and things of that nature. So it's a once you get to learn the acronyms,
Still working on it.
still working on it. It's a great organization, and they're all dedicated to, water and clean water. And so it was fun to run, or fun to sit on.
I know I personally do not have any questions, but I would like to propose that we do write a letter just acknowledging them for their work and thanking them for their diligence and being good stewards of council's in agreement with that.
Sure.
And Mayor, I do think it's important to also recognize that I think this is a good example of where you can live within your means, contrary to some comments earlier in the evening, where I think we don't have to excessively spend, yet we still get a lot done in the water area. And our budget this year will show a $1.31 decrease.
Well, and I also love that the collaboration, this is multiple cities and entities working together. And I truly, truly believe that the more we can do that, that together we are better. And I know I say that and I sound like a broken record, but again, another example. So I think it's important that we celebrate those successes and learn from them.
Now, I was part of the fourth generation plan, and there's some pretty aggressive projects in the fourth generation plan, which basically is over the course of the next 10 years. And so whether they can hold the line on the budget going forward, that'll be the biggest thing, because there's a lot of projects on the list that are watershed wide. But you know something, if there's grant money coming in,
Yep.
there's grant money coming in.
That legacy fund is low. I mean, they've got so much money coming into that thing.
We need to find this.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, well, thank you to our representatives and for everyone for their work on that, and to the watershed. We'll move on to letter F on this evening, under new business, the American Rescue Plan Act, resolution. And I'm gonna turn this over to staff, just to a high level overview.
Thank you, Mayor. As we had discussed briefly at the council workshop, the city will be receiving a little over $200,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act funding, and my summary kind of includes a breakdown of some of those opportunities to spend that money and the process to do so. So the resolution before you is really just kind of a sort of an audit activity, making sure that the council is on board to actually take these federal funds that we are being offered.
Thank you for that. Questions for staff?
Why would we turn away?
Exactly. There are cities that are turning
That's
it away.
rhetorical.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I am looking for a motion to approve the resolution to accept the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund established under the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cahill. I'll second. Second by Mayor Moskowski, and it is a roll call vote.
Mayor Moskowski,
Aye.
Fay,
Aye.
DeLon.
Aye.
Cahill.
Aye.
DeLuca.
Aye.
All right, the resolution passes 5-0. All right, that concludes our new business for this evening. Our next item of business is council reports and other business. And I will start with Councilmember DeLon.
Thank you. Relatively slow month this month. Thank you to our staff for making it that way for us, and for me anyway. Also, so I just attended our EDA meeting and then our workshops. Thank you to Councilmember Fay for sitting into the Planning Commission meeting while I was out. I appreciate that. And that was it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember DeLon. Councilmember Fay.
Well, I spent the weekend attending Veterans Memorial Park at the first part of the month, setting up and preparing for and working the Party in the Park, Ordinal Rotary Party in the Park. It was well attended, quite successful. We haven't done a full accounting yet, but I can assure you that we will be in the black. And therefore that is funds appropriated for veterans and veterans causes. And that's a good thing. I want to thank you for turning over the Planning Commission to me. It was kind of nice to hang out with my old posse. So I want to thank you there. And attended the EDA as well. And continue to serve on the Orno Rotary for the city of McLean.
Thank you. Councilmember Cahill.
Personnel met, and we continue to discuss the wellness program for our fire department. Also attended Watershed, which had a pretty light agenda, but we also met as a city with the county about some potential future projects to help out with. And I also attended the open house at Haven Homes, which was truly a joy. If you ever do it again, some pretty cool people to hang out with there. So go get your ice cream and do a sing along.
All right, thank you. Councilmember DeLuca.
In addition to the workshops, the EDA and the personnel that have already been mentioned, Councilmember Fay and I had a financial committee meeting where we've been working with our administrator on some budgeting processes and just trying to get our arms around some of the financial things. So we're making progress.
Thank you, Councilmember DeLuca. As well as many of the things already mentioned, I was able to attend the Regional Council of Mayors. It was our first time being back in person since last March. So that was just very refreshing and informative and good to connect again safely. Was also able to attend the Northwest Hennepin League of Municipalities where Patricia Newman from Metro Cities was there and Gary Carlson from the league, and then just the additional networking and talking through things going on was good. Was also able to attend the West Hennepin Chamber of Commerce and the Highway 12 Task Force, as we are really working on trying to encourage people to still come to Maple Plain to take that turn or take the extra turn. We are still open for business. There is a brand new billboard on Highway 12. So hopefully you don't miss it, and kudos to everyone for their work on that. Clarissa and I were able to attend the future fire service planning, which again is still, to be honest, it can be a little painful because it's very slow moving, and I'm not always good at that, but there are things to learn, and it is important to, again, network and to continue to be at the table. Councilmember Cahill and I did attend the grand opening at Three Rivers Parks, where Commissioner Beard invited us to be her guest at that, and it was just a fun celebration and just a reminder to get out and to use all of our county parks as well as our city parks. Last week, I was able to attend the League of Minnesota Cities annual conference, first time I've ever done that virtually. So that was different. As part of the annual conference, the Minnesota Women in City Government holds their annual meeting every year during the league conference. It was a great meeting, good speakers, lots to learn, but definitely a highlight for me that I get the privilege to share with all of you is that our very own Caitlin Cahill, Councilmember Cahill, received the 2021 Elected Officials Award. So congratulations to Councilmember Cahill, and thank you for your good work and for what you've done in the county and in the city and continue to do. And we look forward to celebrating that award at some time. I know the plaque is in the mail, and so we will present that at a later time, but wanted to make sure all of your colleagues knew and celebrate you and appreciate your work. So kudos to everyone for all that everyone is doing. Even though it is June and you feel like it's slowed down, when you reflect, there's really still a lot going on. So thank you to everyone for representing the city and for all that each of you do. I know a lot of it goes unnoticed, but it is appreciated. Any other business this evening? Okay, with that, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
By DeLuca,
I'll second.
second by DeLong. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is adjourned at 8:04.